Hello, good morning. I'm part of the COP Insider today with Neil Jones, and as I just said to him just before we started, there's a lot to talk about. It's often the case, but the morning after, where we saw Darwin Nunez be the goal scoring hero and a dramatic comeback for 10 men Liverpool against Newcastle. But what a game it was, and I think if we there's plenty of things to discuss as we already know, but if we go straight in with, I think just the man who had a game that could turn around his Liverpool career, and we just say, how important do you think that moment will be, and those two moments will be for Darwin Nunez?
Yeah, important for him, important for Liverpool, important for the fans. I think just to sort of keep the mood high. I said a few times in the build up to the game that they had the chance to turn a decent start into an excellent one, and I think they've done that now. You look at the two away games they've navigated, and the home win against Bournemouth, and you have to say it's a very promising start to the season. He's probably been the one, hasn't he, Nunez, who's looked a bit the odd one out. If we talk about all the forwards and all the sort of the positivity around the new signings and Szoboszlai and Alisson's form and things like that, and Nunez has been sort of on the fringe. He only got 4 minutes against Bournemouth. He only got a few minutes against Chelsea. I mean, he only got a few minutes on Sunday, but boy, did he use them. And I think the manner in which he took the goals, both clinical finishes, the type of chances really that he was probably missing too many of last season. He's got a bit of time to set himself, and he's got to be precise and perfectly accurate with his shot. I think that really does bode well for him. He's had a difficult sort of start to the season. He had a half decent pre-season and scored a few goals, but didn't do enough to earn a place at the start of the season. And to come on and make an impact like that, and to do it away from home even as well, I think is even bigger, because it gives that feeling of going into a tough place and coming away with 3 points, and seeing the away fans and seeing the sort of reaction of his teammates and his manager. I think that'll do wonders for his confidence. I think Jurgen said, didn't he, afterwards in his press conference, I think there was a quote where he said, where he was asked if Nunez was in line to start against Aston Villa, he said, well, there's worse arguments to make than what he did against Newcastle. So yeah, he might get a chance at Anfield next week, and let's see if he can build on that. He had this time last season, his momentum was disrupted, wasn't it, by that red card against Palace. Let's see if he can start to build some in August and September this time around.
Yeah, well, I think fingers crossed. We'd all agree that to have Darwin Nunez confidence in front of goal, which he looked yesterday, and to have him be able to come on, and maybe he's been accused of snatching the chances, hasn't he, in the past and stuff like that. But he took both of them early, but obviously it worked.
Yeah.
It worked for him yesterday. If we look at maybe,
just before you carry on, mate, I was going to say that there's a good point in that, really, in that Liverpool have worked a lot with him on those kind of finishes. They've wanted him to be calmer. They like the chaos that he brings and the sort of energy that he brings, around the box. But when he's in the penalty area, they want him to be calmer, to be more technically proficient, to get those strikes off cleaner and more accurate. And listen, it's two chances that he's taken. He didn't control the first one that was put over the top by Harvey Elliott particularly well, but the two chances that came subsequently he took, it shows that whatever they've been working on with him, whatever they've been saying to him in whatever language, because obviously he's still got a problem with his English, as his post-match interview shows, but it's going in, and he's putting the graft in on the training ground, and he's got the talent to deliver as well. So really encouraging for him. He's had a lot of criticism. I think he's one of those players that's always going to get criticism no matter what he's doing. He's kind of just that figure, isn't he? He's a bit divisive, and he's a bit sort of easy to mock for rival fans and things like that. But no one was mocking him yesterday, I tell you that much.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Alan Shearer said match of the day as well. That first when he said it was barely half a chance with how little time he had to think about it, and the way he finishes it, massive for everyone. But if we go on to maybe two of the, I wouldn't say bad news. You can't really be bad after a result like that. But if we look at maybe the Van Dijk red card first, and obviously it's led to a bit of debate and discussion. Just first of all, if you want to go into if you think it's a red or not, but then maybe what type of impact you reckon not having him will be. I believe it's only a 1-game ban because of the nature of his foul. But what impact could that have? Just missing him and possibly Kanate in our next match against Villa.
Yeah, I think it is a red card. I saw all the debate and the sort of entrenched views of it yesterday, and I think it's, that says something about it's not a clear cut decision. It's not one that you sort of say, oh yeah, no arguments or no debate, no grey area. I think it is. I think obviously it's a chance, isn't it? And as soon as the ball's played, I thought, oh, Isak's in on goal and Van Dijk got across. And actually, when I first saw it, I thought, well, where the ball ends up, I thought, oh, he must have just got to the ball. I was surprised the free kick was given. Then you see the replay and he's come through the player and taken him out, hasn't he? And so if he doesn't do that, then Isak's got a chance of scoring. So once you've given the foul, you've got to give the red card. And it's just the bigger worry, I suppose, is just it's the kind of thing that Van Dijk wouldn't do. For so long in his Liverpool career, and if you think back to the start of last season, give away a penalty against Fulham, against Mitrovic, didn't he, where he just hung a leg out and he was a bit lazy. Got this instance as well, and there's just a few signs that he probably isn't as dominant, isn't as in control of situations as he was for so long in his Liverpool career. But he'll be missed against Villa, obviously. I think, especially if it looks like there's a decent chance Canate will miss it. If it's a muscle injury, it doesn't tend to be a sort of a few days. That'll tend to be a couple of weeks at minimum if it's a muscle problem. So I think it will be a big miss against Villa. Liverpool have obviously got two centre-backs who can step in and did step in yesterday, and I thought both of them did in patches okay in the game. I thought Matip was decent before he obviously was taken off because of tired legs. But Gomez got better as the game went on. Probably lacks a little bit of aggression at times, but in terms of on the ball and being a centre back, he's more than passable. So I think for one game, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, you wouldn't want to be without Van Dijk or Canate for any long period of time. And just in Van Dijk's case, I think it just gives a little bit of further fuel to the idea, really, that he's not what he used to be. And I think the big challenge for him this season is to get back to that kind of level of consistency that we came used to for so long, after he arrived at the club.
Yeah, we know in Virgil van Dijk, he's obviously not only one of the world's greatest defenders, maybe you say he's on a decline from where he was, but obviously he's our new captain as well. And I just thought it was great, the way that that video the club put out after, and he's there at the door, welcoming all his team, congratulating. That shows he's really stepping into the role. And then the next man I was talking about was Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I also thought, that scream in the last minute when he's in the corner, getting the fans going. And, we've watched Szoboszlai, McAllister, Nunez all-star, and, a couple of years ago, obviously, most of them weren't at the club. And I just felt that moment, just felt like this is like the start of a new era at Liverpool. Maybe, I don't want to be as bold as to say it's going to be the one that's as good as the last one and wins everything, but it felt at that moment, Trent was really grabbing the opportunity to be wearing the armband, even if he's just vice captain for now. I think he's really going to mature into that role. Obviously, he'll be captain for the next match, but he very nearly wasn't going to be involved because of what happened with his 2 yellow cards. So I think it's quite a unanimous thing to say that Anthony Gordon pushed him. It was a joke. It wasn't a free kick our way. He has reacted. It is a yellow card. The second one probably looks like a yellow card as well. But maybe again, get your opinion on that, and then how well did he do? Because I think there was calls from Gary Neville in commentary. You need to get him off the pitch, and then we see Joe Gomez warming up, and I think he even looked like Trent had a little side eye seeing him and might have thought himself he was about to go off. So, just firstly, do you think it was the right decision he stayed on the pitch, and then how well do you reckon he managed his own game afterwards?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I think he should have been sent off after he'd been booked because it was a second yellow card, but he shouldn't have been booked. So sort of justice is done in a weird sort of roundabout way. I don't know how anyone would look at that Anthony Gordon challenge and not see it as a free kick. It was as blatant as you get. And obviously he's reacted with a bit of petulance, and I know the big focus at the moment seems to be on delaying tactics and petulance and things like that, isn't it? And okay, we'll see how long that lasts, but there's a few people falling foul of it at the moment. And we saw Tommy Asu, wasn't it, fell victim of it in the Arsenal game on Monday night. Once he's done it, once you've got the yellow card, you've got to be a bit careful, obviously. And the fact that I actually said that as Anthony Gordon got the ball, I didn't know it was Trent coming to challenge him, but I said he's going to win a free kick, he's going to dive and win a free kick, he's going to jump on the floor and win a free kick. And he was touched, but that's Anthony Gordon's game, isn't it? You know, he exaggerates contact, he draws free kicks, he wins fouls. And Trent needs to be a bit smarter in that situation. There was obviously, I mean, if you watch back the actual goal, he tries to grab Gordon's shirt, doesn't he, after he's made the poor touch, and that could have ended in a red card as well. So he's obviously got a little bit of a little bit of a chasing in that first half. But I think if you look at the way he responded in the second, and you know, the fact that he's obviously had to wear the armband, he's obviously had to dig in, as all the Liverpool players did in that second half. They were under a lot of pressure. You know, they didn't have a lot of the ball at times, but they dug in. And I think if you look back to the first goal, it comes from Trent playing one of those Trent passes, doesn't it, into midfield, into Salah, turns it around the corner, and Liverpool go and get the equaliser from it. And so that's the Trent conundrum, isn't it? You know, whatever defensive weaknesses you point to, or whatever issues you might see him have during games, he's got those moments in him. He's got that quality in him that you just can't ignore. And I think he'll be fine. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that sort of raw that he produced right down near the corner flag in the last minute spoke to, I think, an understanding that this is a big moment for this team. This is a big away win against a team that's flying and getting a lot of praise, and you know, seems to be on an upward curve. This is a reminder that Liverpool have still got something. They've still got some teeth. They can still bite you. They can still compete at the top end of the Premier League. And I also thought the way that he spoke in his post-match interview, when he mentioned Jarell Kwanzaa, the young lad who came on as sub, you know, name-checked him. I thought that was a real sign of captaincy, you know, or awareness of the importance of captaincy. You know, a young lad's coming on for his Premier League debut in tough circumstances. Trent knows what that feels. You know, his Premier League debut, his first start, came at Old Trafford, didn't it? You know, he's wanting to make sure that a young lad who's going through the same things that he went through all them years ago is getting his appropriate appreciation as well. So I thought that was a good sign as well in terms of the leadership aspect.
Yeah, you know, we said there as well, what he said afterwards, I thought was great as well. I'll go into that slightly after, but I just want to also mention Jurgen Klopp and in what he did for this team after we went down to 10 men. I know he's especially at Newcastle, we see a lot of coaches getting involved on their bench, and I think Pep Linders comes under, I think, often quite unwarranted criticism for his role at our club. And I think, you know, there was a few times when he was off in the technical area shouting, but it was after a sub, it was after we'd done something, after we made the tactical switch. And I think, you know, for us to manage that game so well, obviously it all could have gone so different if like that Almiron goal goes in right after the first, and you know, that could have been game over. We lose 5-0 and it's crisis time. But I thought the way that we managed that match, obviously we already know that Jurgen Klopp's a great manager, and we know that his coaching staff's unbelievable. But I think that just showed, you know, like a real awareness of how we can get a win out of this game. And you know, we did to Newcastle what teams do to us at Anfield, you know, sit in, make it hard to beat, and worked as a team. And we got the rewards and all the headlines today will be Nunez, and he gets man of the match, and it only came on with 15 minutes to go, and all the hard work maybe had been done before that. It did seem like we just flicked a switch, went, right, now we can win this game, and how effective we were. You know, Jota was massive, Harvey Elliott was massive, we say Kwanzaa came on and looked great. I just thought every sub seemed to be the perfect time, and they all had a great impact. And I don't really know what your comments will be on that, other than saying, and Klopp's boss, which we all know. But I think, just maybe a comment on how well that we managed to turn that situation around, and you know, just congratulations to them all, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it never hurts to be reminded a couple of things. One, that, you know, Liverpool have still got very good players and the ability to bring very good players off the bench. You know, you mentioned there 3 players in particular, in Nunez, of course, but Harvey Elliott, Diogo Jota, who made a big difference to the game. Not the first time that Harvey Elliott's done that this season as well. I thought he did something similar at Chelsea, you know, in a different circumstances, but a similar kind of requirement for him. Obviously Nunez coming on with just 15 minutes to go and getting the 2 goals. Jota added so much in terms of threat. You know, Liverpool didn't look a threat when Gakpo was on the field, and once Jota was, then it was clear that there was something there. And it never hurts to get a reminder as well for all that, you know, that there does seem to be a kind of a permanent negativity among certain sections of the fan base and among certain journalists and people, that these players are still behind the manager. They're still behind the club. They're still fully on board with what he's trying to do. There was no. Jota has every right to be disappointed not to start. Nunez has every right to wonder why am I getting 15 minutes? Why am I getting 5 minutes against Bournemouth? Joe Gomez has got every right to, when he's coming on, to be thinking, God, I haven't played centre back for an awful long time. Joel Matip hasn't played for a fair while as well. But they're all getting their hands dirty and willing to get stuck right in, aren't they? And it was a bit of humility around the way that they did it as well. They accepted. They didn't try and sort of be. Maybe in the past they'd be a little bit more naive and they'd sort of still be trying to open up and counter press and do all these things, and they'd get picked off. They sat, didn't they, and they accepted at Newcastle. I think there was one moment where it flashed up on Sky where Newcastle in the second half had 80% of possession, I think, and that was probably about 15 minutes into the second half. They were willing to do that. They were willing to ride their luck, and they had to ride their luck. You can't get away from that. If Almiron's effort is a little bit further in the corner in the first half, or his one in the second half's a little bit closer, then they're scoring. If Harvey Barnes gets his head up and plays the right pass, just after Nunez has had half a chance, then the game's over and we're not having this conversation. But you need that kind of luck with 10 men. And I think what was clear, and I said this, I was watching it with someone yesterday, and I said this as the game was going on, I said, Liverpool fancy this, Liverpool will get something from this. And you could just sense it after about the hour mark. You could just sense that they were growing into it. You could sense that they were getting into the penalty area or around the penalty area a little bit more. You could sense that Newcastle were not quite making the same, or having the same sort of quality in their play or making the right decisions. And that's what happens in the Premier League, isn't it? It only takes a minute. Newcastle make a mistake, they're punished. They make another mistake, they're punished, and Liverpool come away with it. But yeah, really, really good for Jurgen Klopp. I think he's he compared it to the Barcelona game, didn't he? I think that when he was speaking to Sky afterwards, he said it was better. I think he said because it was away from home. I wouldn't go that far, but it was definitely another example of what he's built at Liverpool in terms of not just the players but the spirit as well.
Yeah, well, that togetherness was very clear, wasn't it? I think the video, the camera cut to Klopp afterwards, he's having to shout Costa Simicast to come off the pitch because he's celebrating so much. And you saw Luis Diaz, who was the unfortunate man to be taken off for Gomez, and I think he looked a little bit confused, maybe about the decision, but obviously someone's going to have to come off, I think. But you saw his celebrations at full time. So obviously that was maybe just an in the moment reaction, but obviously he was fully behind his teammates and everything afterwards. And you say that all the players who were involved, they loved it as much as all of us, which is what you want to see as a fan, is that everyone's on board together. But if we just maybe did the last comment on yesterday's match, and basically just what you kind of touched on there, how big Trent and Jurgen Klopp said this was. Do you think this was a bit of a message to the rest of the league to say like how big this was, or do you think this will actually be viewed? Obviously, I think Klopp did kind of say that it's hard to say how big this game is because you don't know what follows it. Obviously, that Villa game in the season we win the leagues always look back upon because of what happened afterwards, and because we went on to have such success from it. And you can see this as the moment where Nunez started believing, we all started believing something would happen. But yeah, just maybe the confidence that Trent, or maybe the boldness that Trent and Klopp both had to say, this is one of the best results we've had since Klopp's been manager. This is huge. Like, what did you think of those comments, really?
Yeah, I think it was a sign of respect for Newcastle. Big feather in their cap, isn't it? That it's viewed that way. It wasn't so long ago that you'd be going to St James's Park and Liverpool have won plenty of times there. I think it's a long time since Newcastle beat Liverpool. Actually, I think Steve McLaren was the last manager to do so. So it's a feather in their cap, and it shows how well they've grown and what they've built. For all what Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall do in terms of winding up, they've done a very good job at Newcastle, and that can't be ignored. I think from a Liverpool perspective, I think they're almost. They're fighting to get back to this kind of winning mentality. And I saw Trent's Instagram, I think, was winning is all that matters. I think that's what he posted in the end. That's what defined their rise, didn't it? We can talk about the wonderful moments. We can talk about the Mo Salah's goals and the brilliance of Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino's flicks and tricks and all these things. But what Liverpool's success was underpinned on, or for what underpinned Liverpool's success, should I say, is that they were able to win when they weren't playing well. And they did it so many times in that 2018-19 season when they went so close. The following year when they went one better. Even in that 21-22 season when they chased the quadruple. The amount of games they won when they come through rocky patches, when they came through slow starts, or they wobbled in the middle of the second half, or where they needed people to come off the bench and win games for them. That was what defined Liverpool's rise for me, that they were able to find a way. And that was lost last season. From the very first weekend of the season, suddenly they couldn't find a way. They were drawing games, they were losing games, they were going behind and not being able to turn it back. To do what he did at Chelsea on the first day, to ride out that storm, obviously to come through some of the adversity they came through in the Bournemouth game, albeit against lesser opposition, and win with 10 men. And then to do what they did against Newcastle is just reinforcing that notion that, look, this team can find a way. It's a new team. There's some new players in it who don't know about the great days of 2018 and 2019 and 2020. There's people who are they're just building, just starting their Liverpool career. There are some who've only known negativity in their Liverpool career. Darwin Nunez probably is one of those players. Cody Gakpo's had a good start, but he's come into it halfway through a season that was pretty disappointing. So these players, for them, it's really good to have them experience what it feels like to go to somewhere like Newcastle, to get a win like that, to see the away end, to see the celebrations in the end, and then to look at the league table all of a sudden and go, hey, tell you what, look at that. Newcastle have lost 2 out of 3. Man United have already been beaten. Arsenal dropped points at the weekend. Look at that. We're now one of the teams that have, we're capitalising on their errors rather than the other way around. And I think that's shouldn't be underestimated. It's very early in the season, but Liverpool have got 2 tough away games out of the road. If they can beat the teams they're supposed to beat at home and get some decent results against the teams around them, they can go a long way. Still got work to do, but what a good start it's been.
Yeah, well, I think we'd all probably, when we watch Van Dijk go off and we were 1-0 down, we could take the draw and basically to go and have
just a bit
Newcastle away 4 points to beat Bournemouth relatively convincingly at Anfield with a couple of shaky moments. But yeah, to have that, it is a very good start, and hopefully it continues with Villa. But as we must, because it's still the summer technically, so the weather doesn't look like it. There's moving into hours rather than days of the transfer window remaining now, and just obviously touch on a couple of things. I think hopefully a quick one, because hopefully there's not much to say about it. But Jurgen Klopp again yesterday seemed to confirm that Mo Salah's not going anywhere. Is this something that you think is correct, or are we going to be seeing an offer? I think Jamie Carragher said if it was around £150 million, we might have to look at it. So do you think something like that's come in the final few days, or is Mo Salah safely going to be a red?
I wouldn't want to put my neck on the line and say he's going to be safe for red, but Liverpool's stance has been clear. They don't want to sell him. He's not for sale. It was actually the official stance. Jurgen said yesterday, I think he was asked, wasn't he, these stories aren't going away or haven't gone away, and he said, for me, they have. Salah certainly didn't look like someone who's lacking motivation or is thinking of an exit strategy at Liverpool. He was running his balls off, to be perfectly honest. On Sunday, the shift he put in, and then to still have the presence of mind and the quality to pull off that assist in the last minute speaks volumes for him. I think there'll still be rumblings, listeners, as long as the transfer window's open, both in Europe and Saudi Arabia. There's going to be rumblings, and you can see that it's a very aggressive strategy from Saudi Arabia to sort of bring it into the public consciousness, and to unsettle and to create this fuss and buzz around potential new signings, and everyone's being linked. And I don't think it's any secret that Salah would be probably one of their prized signings, given his status, given obviously the standing that he has in world football. I don't think there's any situation where Liverpool should be considering a sale. I saw the comments about 150 million. I don't think that's even enough for Liverpool at this moment in time. They've got so much else that they need to worry about. The idea of replacing their best player, their most important player, their most decisive player in the space of 4 days, just I wouldn't even want to consider it. You may as well write the season off if Liverpool are going to sell Mo Salah at this stage. So hopefully they stand as firm as they've been so far, and still, as far as I'm aware, no bid's been received. So there's the sort of the conversations you have with people as well is not to discuss until a bid is received. But let's hope that bid either doesn't come or is dismissed out of hand because Liverpool need Mo Salah going forward. They might not have him for the next 2 years, but they definitely need him for this season. They can't even contemplate selling him as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, I fully agree, and I think hopefully it seems that most people in the club agree as well, which is what we want to hear. I kind of touched what Carragher said then, but obviously afterwards he kind of made a play to FSG, didn't he, on Sky? If we go and back this manager now, as we touched on before, we got a draw at Stamford Bridge in the opening day. We've beat Newcastle dramatically. We got a good home win. This is a good time to go back here and Klopp. There's never been a bad time to do it, but this feels like if we can get him 2 more players. He was asking for more defensive cover and maybe another midfielder. If you can back him with 2 more signings, big things could happen. Maybe before we go into names, how likely is it that Liverpool will complete 1 or 2 more deals before the window is up?
Yeah, I disagree with Carragher on the Salah point. I completely agree with him on that one. I think this is the time, just capitalise on the mood. Don't allow the mood to sort of suddenly dim, because Liverpool haven't done what they should have done in June and July. There's still time. I think Liverpool will make at least one signing. I think they'll be in the market for. All summer I've sort of thought it'd be more likely to be another midfielder. I'm looking now and thinking probably a defender is more necessary. Just for numbers, just for cover. I mean, Jarell Quansah has done a great job yesterday. He came on in tough circumstances. He's 20 years of age. He's played 16 games in League One last season, and now he's played 15 minutes in the Premier League. Don't over-promote him. Don't ask him to do too much too soon and risk his development in that regard. Joe Gomez done okay, but listen, Joe Gomez has had so many problems, and he's not convinced when he's played centre back for the last year or two. Joel Matip had to be taken off with 20 minutes to go because he was tired. And you're talking about him being your third choice, potentially having to play every game if people are injured and suspended. Doesn't really work. Canate's got a muscle injury already in the season. He missed the start of last season with an injury. He's already broken down at the start of this. And obviously Van Dijk's 32. Can he play every game? No, he can't. So Liverpool need to act. And also the other thing is what happens at right back. If Joe Gomez is playing centre half and you've got a problem at right back, what would have happened if Trent had been sent off yesterday? All of a sudden you're in absolute unknown territory. So Liverpool need a defender. They've got a problem there if they get injuries, which they will, which we know they will. History tells us they will. So they need to do something there. I still think there's another midfielder needed as well. I still think they could do with one more option. I know they've got players back fit as of today in Curtis Jones and Thiago. I know Bajcetic has been back on the bench the last couple of games. But I still think they're one short. I still think they need another presence in there, another player who can run. You've seen the impact Szoboszlai's made already. Having another player, I'm not saying as good as him or as expensive as him, but having another player who can get about the pitch for 90 minutes and has got quality, I think would make a massive difference to Liverpool. So I want to see them do something. I agree with Jamie Carragher. I think this is the time to sort of say, do you know what? We've got away with it a little bit. We've had a tough July where key players have left. We've had a lot of criticism. We've missed out on a couple of transfers. It hasn't cost us really because we've got 7 points from 9. We're in a decent position. Go and capitalise on it. Go and get a couple of quality players in. Lift the mood of the fans. Lift the mood of the team. Add a bit more competition and give yourself a chance of coping with whatever the season has to come. Because listen, they're not a million miles away from being a very good side. Liverpool, not a million miles away at all. And 2 more players, 1 more player even could make a big difference.
Yeah, well, I think it would be the perfect time, as you say, and it's kind of like I said, to capitalise on this. And there's never a good time for your captain to be sent off and your second or starting centre back to also be injured. But it maybe could come as somewhat of a blessing if Klopp says, "Look, it's happened already." And as you said there, we couldn't afford to play, or Matip wasn't able to play the full match as well. And that's your 3 centre backs now unable to play 90 minutes in the next match. It is somewhat of a worry, isn't it? So yeah, maybe it could be somewhat of a blessing in disguise if we go out, get a result against Villa, and we've got it with the fact that we now know that there is a bit of defensive frailty. We've had to go out and strengthen. But if I don't want to put names in your mouth, and there's always people in the rumour mill tell people. I think even we've got Villa next, and I think Kamada and he's from there have been linked several times. I think I've saw some reports this morning. Douglas Luiz back on it. We've seen Decore. we've seen so many different names, but then when we watch with Kamara and Szoboszlai, they were just names that came, and very quickly they became Liverpool players soon after. So, obviously it's hard to know, but if there was any midfielders that we could be looking out for in the next few days, who would you think would be most likely, or is it going to be another shock?
Yeah, if it is going to be another shock, I won't know about it. But I think you look, obviously, Gravenberch's one. Ryan Gravenberch's been one who's been long on the agenda. I think you have to give him consideration given his situation at Bayern. There's a chance he could be available, and if he is, then Liverpool, I think, will be in the mix. I think Decore, I think Liverpool clearly like him. I think the price seems big for Decore at this moment. If it was a lower price, yeah. I can't see Villa letting Kamara or Luiz go at this stage. I think they've had a pretty promising start to the season, haven't they? After the slapping on the first day, they've responded well. So I think they'd want to keep their star men, and they are two of their star men. They're really important to them. So I think that would be a difficult one. Obviously, there's names like Kone, Thuram, who've been linked previously. Liverpool like those players. It's whether they feel that the deal makes sense in terms of the money. But yeah, I think Gravenberch would be the one that I would have highest on the list. Obviously, there's still Andre as well in Fluminense, but that looks like one that probably is going to be difficult to do in this window. But yeah, the good news, I suppose, about it compared to this time last year, where they ended up with Arthur Melo on loan, whereas they weren't really in a position where there was a huge list of names that they could sort of look at and say, well, which one works? They were almost painted into a corner where it was like, well, we've got 24 hours to find someone available now, and they ended up with Arthur. This time they've done a lot of work. They've got a lot of names on the list. They've got a lot of groundwork that's been put in with agents, with clubs. They've got a good understanding of the market. Obviously it's been a bit crazy, the market, in terms of midfielders, and they've discovered that, painfully recently. But they've got a good understanding of the market, so it should enable them that when an opportunity does arise, that they're in a position to react and get a deal done. So I don't think it'll be as difficult for Liverpool to find a midfielder as it was this time last year when they ended up with, and no disrespect to Arthur, it wasn't his fault. They ended up with, a really, really poor signing.
Yeah, I think we ended up with half and half. We didn't even get to play properly. But if we just touch on
minutes.
If we touch on finally, then we're just defenders. Pretty much the same question again. There hasn't been many massively linked names that we've seen. I think is it Pakente, and again my pronunciation isn't great, from Bayer Leverkusen, been linked a bit, and then obviously I think the only other one.
Hincapié.
Sorry, yeah.
Piero Hincapié, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry. And also, I think Mickey van der Ven was the only other defender we've seen maybe half linked to this window. So he's now gone to Spurs. So is there anyone that you know of that Liverpool are looking at, or again, are we going to be surprised with a name that we haven't even considered and then they end up coming?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's a really tough profile that Liverpool are looking for. They're looking for someone who's younger than 23, who can play sort of in a back three, but not Liverpool aren't going to play a back three as such, but it's got a bit of ability to play out of the middle as well, play right or left, ideally left. Really, I think Liverpool are weaker in terms of left-sided centre backs. They've obviously got Van Dijk, but he's obviously of an age where they need to start thinking about competition / support for him. I don't think they'll go and buy a fullback, a specialist fullback. I think obviously they've still got Simicast, they've got Conor Bradley as a young lad there. I think it needs to be a defender who can play in two positions, whether that's right centre back and left centre back, or right back and right centre back, or left back and left centre back. I think it needs to be a player like that, and it's got to be a player that probably doesn't expect to go straight into the team. So you're looking at that and you're thinking that is a difficult profile. Who are you going to buy for, or how much are you going to spend on a player that's going to come in and sod's law would be that all the centre backs stay fit, and all of a sudden you've got him or Joe Gomez not even getting on the bench, or Joel Matip or whoever. So it is a difficult one. I understand it, but there are players out there. I mean, Liverpool have I've named a few players in the past, but Hincapié at Bayer Leverkusen is one that they like. I think there's a guy called Fiate from Rennes who they like, or certainly got potential. There's obviously they've like Levi Colwill previously, but that's a no-go. Van der Ven went to Spurs, but you can see the sort of the profile of those players at the left-sided centre-backs, young, sort of developmental potential, and around the sort of 35, 40 million pound mark rather than the Guardiola level of 70 or 80. So we'll see what comes of it. I mean, I haven't heard any sort of names that I'd hang my hat on and say, yep, they're going to go after him, or they're going to really try and push for that one. It's not like the midfield situation where you've got a clear idea of who they're after or who they've looked at. But they have to find someone. I just can't believe that they would do it again after doing it last season with the midfield, after doing it in 2020 with the defence when they left themselves one short. It would be unforgivable for Liverpool to do it again. It would just be undermining of all the good that's going on at the club, and there is a lot of good going on. They've done really well with Szoboszlai. They've done really well with McAllister. We'll see what comes of Endo. They've developed players like Curtis Jones to really, develop them into first team players. Harvey Elliott, Stefan Bajcetic. Don't undermine that by sitting on your hands and making out that you can't improve this squad. You can improve this squad. It's quite clear.
Well, fingers crossed. We are looking back at the end of the window with a couple of new signings, and we're all thinking this is our season. Just the very last question for you, and I don't know how you would know, but just maybe out of interest. Obviously, we see the Moises Caicedo budget has been slightly chipped into by signing Endo. It's like 18 million pounds, something around there. Just how much do you think Liverpool will spend before the window closes? I think if we look at that budget, we've got about 18 million pounds left. How much is going to?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's a bit too simplistic to say, they've got this budget. I think that's the budget for a certain player, isn't it? I think that's the budget for Caicedo. They believe that was potentially worth it. It's a high fee. They wouldn't pay that, but they wouldn't just say, well, okay, we're going to pay 110 million for Caicedo, so we'll pay it for Kefren Turam. They would have a valuation of him, which they would stick to. They wouldn't, use up or say, well, we've got this money, we need to get rid of it. It's not like that. But they have. What it does prove is that they have got the means to get a deal together if they feel it's the right deal. So I think you can't. They can't use money as an excuse in this window. They can't use the fact that the players aren't out there, because they are. It's just what is the right player and what is the right deal. So I don't have any doubts that if Liverpool find the right player, the right deal, they'll spend the money. It's just who is it and what is the deal.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll put you on the spot. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think if we're obviously we're hoping that the window closes with some good deals that will see us launch an attack on trying to win the Premier League. And I think what you've said there, that there is a chance that we could be welcoming one or two new players, and that's something that hopefully should be seen as exciting. But regardless of all that, we've proven in the first 3 games that we've got a team that can compete against anyone in this league. Obviously, I think we haven't played Man City and Arsenal yet, but I don't think we're going to play many better teams than Newcastle away, and we don't really know what Chelsea are going to be like. But it's been a good start to the season, and obviously just thanks very much today for joining us and having the breakdown on Newcastle and what might happen before the window closes. Obviously, anyone watching, we've had Neil Jones with us again. You can view his work on the Substack, which is neilj.substack.com, and also on Twitter, which you can see on the screen as well there, at Neil Jones Goal. If you're watching this on our YouTube, please make sure, obviously, to give it a like, give it a subscribe, give all the stuff that you normally do and normally ask to do on YouTube. Give us a comment if you can. Audio is also going to go on our Substack, so obviously keep an eye on Neil's Substack, see what the transfers are, and also you can have a little listen to this back and see what else we're talking about before the transfer window closes. Ours is empirethecop.substack.com. You've been listening or watching Empire the Cop Insider. Thank you very much. Up the Reds, and let's hope that this ends positively when we see September arrive and when we next face Aston Villa.